Father, thank you for your unchanging love. Thank you that although we need you every hour and that we can do nothing without you, that you look down on us with love. Thank you for giving your Son. Thank you for dying on the cross to make us your children and your family. Just a body that's devoted to you that you give us to. I pray that you would bless Pastor Bruce as he's coming this morning to just bring your word. I pray that you would put your words in his mouth. That everything he says would be true and good for us to learn from. I pray that you would just bless our hearts as we prepare to receive your word. And in Jesus' name I pray.
Okay, so this week we're going to be looking at Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. A well-known passage for many people, possibly a dreaded passage for some people, but we'll get into that. Proverbs 31 is, well, first our central idea of Proverbs 31, 10 through 31 is that men and women should partner to fulfill God's calling on their lives. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's go through and read Proverbs 31 together. If you have a Bible, you can turn there or tap or swipe there. If you don't, you can follow along up on the screen. So here we go. Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. She draws on her strength and reveals that her arms are strong. She sees that her profits are good and her lamp never goes out at night. She extends her hands to the spinning staff and her hands hold the spindle. Her hands reach out to the poor, and she extends her hands to the needy. She is not afraid for her household when it snows, for all in her household are doubly clothed. She makes her own bed coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known at the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes and sells linen garments. She delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her household and is never idle. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. So again, our central idea, men and women should partner to fulfill God's calling on their lives. So first, as I said, Proverbs 31 is a fairly well-known passage. How many of you have heard of this passage or read this passage before? Okay, good number of you. It's sometimes considered sort of like the go-to passage for Mother's Day sermons, which is interesting. Some mothers kind of hate that and complain about that. But it's a passage many women don't like because it seems to be putting this high calling on them that maybe they don't always live up to. But also there are some incorrect ideas floating around about how to interpret this passage. So let's look here. One of them is that some people have tried to make it less burdensome to women by claiming that it's not really about a single person at all, or a single woman at all. Rather, it's a compilation of various traits that various women have. We just throw them all together and say that, if you have some of this, great, you're a Proverbs 31 woman. But it's too much to expect any one person to be all that. So that's one of the ideas. Another idea is to say that it's not about women at all in any way. This view says that it's really about wisdom. And this view rightly points out that in the book of Proverbs, wisdom is often personified as a woman. So for example, Proverbs 8:1-2 says this: "Doesn't wisdom call out? Doesn't understanding make her voice heard? At the heights overlooking the road, at the crossroads, she takes her stand." So wisdom, and this is a wisdom book, Proverbs is a book of wisdom, and wisdom is often personified as a woman in the book. So they go to that, and they say, oh, so when we get to this woman in Proverbs 31, it's also still wisdom. It's not a woman at all. So this view says that it's just wisdom. And that all the praise in Proverbs 31 for this woman is really just praise for wisdom. So women don't need to be this woman particularly, because this is wisdom. Just as men don't have to fulfill all these rules, they just have to follow wisdom. Like I said, this view does rightly point out that wisdom is personified in Proverbs as a woman. That's true. But that by itself does not mean that here, this is not a real woman or an idea of a woman. It's just wisdom. Should we make the same claim about Proverbs warning against adultery? Adultery is often personified in the wisdom literature in Proverbs as this woman crying out, calling out, seducing, and stuff like that. She says, well, that's not real. That's not a real warning. Like, no, it really is a warning against being seduced by somebody else. Now, what about the Proverbs in this book, the Proverbs that talk about the blessings of a great wife? That's also a theme throughout the book. For example, Proverbs 12:4 says, "A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a wife who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones." Like, is that not really about a woman, or is it not really telling men that a good wife is a great blessing? Well, it is. So this passage is really about a wife, but there's still more that we need to know as we get in. As I mentioned here, the passage is written to men, but it's good for all of us. So one of the features of this is that this is actually written to men, because the entire book of Proverbs is written to men. And it tells us that at the very beginning, in chapter 1, it tells us that Solomon is writing to his sons, and there's some debate about whether it's his literal biological sons or just the young men in his court, but he tells us he's writing to young men and giving them advice. Okay, so the whole book is about that. So when we get to this, it's really written to men too, trying to give them advice on what type of woman to look for when they want to get married. But like everything in the Bible, it is good for all of us. We've talked about that through Song of Solomon and some other things, that there might be parts that don't seem immediately applicable to us, but all of the Bible is God's Word. It's all useful for teaching. So it's all good for us, and we're going to talk about that. So let's see. One of the other things we need to know is that this passage is an acrostic. So if you remember back to middle school or high school English classes, an acrostic is a type of poem where the first letter in each line maybe combines to spell a word, or in this case, in some Hebrew poetry, including this one, each line begins with a successive letter in the Hebrew alphabet. So if it's written in English, the first line would begin with an A, and the second line would begin with a B, and then C. And you go through 26 lines. Now, this entire poem is an acrostic. Also, this entire poem is a chiasm. So we talk about chiasms a lot going through Song of Solomon. So you might remember a chiasm is another form of Hebrew poetry or Hebrew writing, where you kind of work through the ideas, point A, point B, point C, and then you work backwards through point B and point A again. So Song of Solomon was a chiasm. The center, the main point was the marriage. right before the marriage was a dream, and then there was another dream repeated right after the marriage. So chiasms are found frequently in Hebrew writing, and this is actually a chiasm as well. And those two things together point to the idea that this is one poem, one structure. And that's important because as you read through Proverbs, if you've read through before, you might know that some parts of Proverbs go together in a sequence. Like chapter 1 is an introduction, he introduces his point, he gives some general advice, and things like that. But then there are other parts of Proverbs where it's literally just a bunch of one-sentence statements that don't necessarily connect exactly together. But this part does connect together. So 10 through 31 is one poem with one central idea. So we can see that because it's an acrostic and it's a chiasm. So we'll talk more about that as we go. But now we need to look at the actual points of the poem. And the first one is that a wife or a woman of noble character is priceless. So as we go through this, the verses we're going to talk about will tend to be from one part and another part of the proverb, or the poem. So we have verse 10, the very beginning, and then verses 30 and 31, the very end, because again it's a chiasm. The beginning is repeated at the end. So, what does verse 10 tell us? It says, "Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels." So the very first thing we're told about the woman of noble character is that she is incredibly valuable. She's worth more than jewels. In essence, she's priceless. She's a treasure. And like any treasure, she's not easy to find. You have to search for her and look for her. You have to know what you're looking for. Okay? You have to know what you're looking for and go out and try to find it. Now, an important thing we need to note is that in many translations, the CSB, the one that I use, the ESV, the one some of you use, NIV, another common one many people use, we're all told that this is the wife of noble character. But in the King James Version, it says the virtuous woman, a woman of noble character. And that's because the Hebrew word here can mean wife or it can mean any other woman. You just have to go by the context and figure out. Now, in this case, we know that it's talking about a wife because it talks about her husband and children. So it's not hard to figure out the context there. But this is important to know because as we go through this, there's a few things to point out. One is that if young men are looking for this woman, they shouldn't be looking for a woman who's married and has kids. Okay, that's bad. If you didn't know, all of you young single men, don't look for women who are already married. Okay? So you don't have to be married and have children to fulfill the aspects of Proverbs 31 that we're going to talk about. Another interesting thing is that the woman or wife of noble character or virtue, depending on the translation, is mentioned twice in Proverbs. And there's only one other place in the entire Bible where that phrase is used for an actual woman, and it's Ruth. In the story of Ruth, Boaz says that he can see that she's a woman of noble character, or a virtuous woman. And at this point, she's not married. So what he's seeing in her is the character that is exemplified in Proverbs 31. So Boaz is one of those wise young men who's looking for the virtuous woman. So you need to understand, this is talking about a wife, but the characteristics that young men should be looking for can be true of any woman, including, especially if you're looking for a wife, a woman who's not married. Okay, so this is really important for us to understand this passage because the traits discussed in this passage are the traits of a married woman. As I said, she's a mother. She works hard for her family. She's praised by her husband. But I already said the point is to give advice to young single men about the kind of woman they're looking for. And I think you all agree again that Solomon wasn't telling these young men to look for a married woman. Jennifer and I, she looks up like, she's asked me before, what made me when I was younger, attracted to her. And I said, you were the kind of woman who I wanted to be married to and the mother of my children and stuff like that. So I was looking forward to what kind of woman that I wanted. So So I had to have an idea of what kind of woman would be a good wife and mother. So we need to know that. Be there. She deserves praise from her community. In verse 31, it says, give her the reward of her labor and let her works praise her at the city gates. So this woman is deserving praise from the entire community. That's what it's talking about in the city gates there. In ancient Hebrew culture, the city gates were where the leaders of the city gathered, discussed city business, made decisions, and things like that. So the city gates were where the leaders would be, where they were sort of the center of civic activity. So when it says, let her be praised for her works at the city gates, it's talking about the community coming together to praise this woman. So again, a single woman can still be this virtuous woman. The word shet, the Hebrew word, usually doesn't mean wife, but it's not restricted to wives. So we're looking for the type of woman who is celebrated, whether she's married or not. And ultimately, her character comes from her faith in God. Because verse 30 says, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. So that's the key characteristic of this woman, whether she's married or not, is that she is a woman who fears the Lord. Everything about her must be understood in relation to this fact, in relation to her relationship with God, her faith in God. So as we go through the rest of this poem, we need to keep in mind that the key characteristic is that she is completely in love with God, trusting in God, her faith is in God. That is what makes her a virtuous woman. That is what makes her so valuable. Number 2, she is a blessing to her husband and children. Verses 11 and 12, and then again in 28 and 29. So if we look at verses 11 and 12, it's going to tell us that her husband and children can trust in her, and it works out well for him. So 11 and 12 say this, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. So what does it mean that her husband trusts in her? Well, it means that he doesn't have to micromanage her. He can trust her to go about her work, even complex and financially important tasks and work, and she can do it well. She's like one of the good managers in Jesus' parable who was trusted while the owner was away, and when the owner came back, they returned not only what the owner had entrusted to them, but even more so. So she can be trusted, he can trust in her, and she rewards him with good. She brings a profit to that trust. This means that she's intelligent and she's qualified. To trust in someone means that they're empowered and can function independently. There's never a sense in the Bible where women are inferior intellectually or morally or anything like that. This woman is someone who can be trusted because she's qualified and intelligent. A man shouldn't be looking for a naive girl or a girl who got to watch over all the time, she's going to make dumb mistakes or anything like that. He should be looking for the kind of woman that he can let loose and trust that she is going to work and make the world a better place for him and for her family and for the community. And so women should be encouraged to be smart and educated. We're here at STEM University. I don't think that's going to be real controversial here or anything like that. But the Bible supports that. Women should be smart, educated, industrious workers. Her husband can trust in her, and he's not going to lack anything good because of her work, and she rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. So, you can trust in her, and as a result, the children can trust in her, and it works out well. Be there, her family responds to the blessing with praise for her. So then, when we corresponding verses at the end, in verses 28 and 29, it says, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. So not only does her husband praise her, but her children too. Her reward on earth is the love and respect and praise of her family. Those are important things. And now, she works hard and is a helper in the creation mandate. Verses 13 and the corresponding 19 to 27. So her work requires intelligence. As I've already said, the trust her husband puts in her requires her to be intelligent. And here we'll see some of his ways. In verse 13, she selects wool and flax. In verse 16, she evaluates a field and she buys it. In verses 27, she watches over the activities of her household, which would have included those servants that were mentioned. So she's managing a home. So she's running a business, she's managing a home. Her work is hard. She's involved. She's working hard and she's helping this creation manage. Now some people get tripped up in the specifics here. This gets into where some people have issues with Proverbs 31. They either think that in order to be a Proverbs 31 woman, you have to own a small business. Maybe even you have to make clothes or something like that, like sort of an old-fashioned, 1950s thing. You're not sewing your own clothes. You're not really a Proverbs 31 woman because it says here that she makes clothes. And those are specifics that I don't think Solomon really meant here, because again, it just doesn't make sense that he's telling all these young men that they all need to look for a woman who selects flax and makes clothes from flax. That's just not reasonable. The specifics here could also be dismissed as largely irrelevant. And we could say, well, women today in our modern world, they're not selecting flax and they're not sewing clothes out of it. So this entire passage really doesn't have anything to do with us today. And that would be a bad way to go about it. So remember, Solomon is writing advice to young men about the type of woman that they should look for. And it's nonsense to think that Solomon was telling them that all women need to be running a small business, making clothes out of flax, or anything like that. And what he is doing, though, is telling them that they need to look for the type of woman who's working hard, industrious, making the world a better place. Look for an intelligent woman who's capable and will be a blessing. And along those lines, her work requires diligence. So verse 13 says that she works willingly with her hands. Verses 15, 18, and 27 say she continually works hard. In verse 15, she gets up before the sun. In verse 18, her lamp never goes out at night. And in verse 27, she is never idle. Now, this is again another place where some women look at this and say, this is ridiculous. Okay? She gets up before sunset. But I don't even know what she's getting up from because her lamp never goes out. So she never stops working and she's never idle. Okay? That's a lot to ask. Okay? We all agree it's a lot to ask. Okay? Yeah, this is poetry. It's not all literal. You don't have to be making clothes out of flax. And it's probably unreasonable young men to look for a woman who never sleeps.
Unless you have to do work.
That's true. And then maybe you can help and give her a little rest. We'll see. So here's another place where people can go wrong by thinking that this woman works 24/7. But we need to understand here hyperbole in poetry. Her lamp never goes out, she's never idle, are obviously exaggerations. This is one of those things, again, it can be intimidating and seem ridiculous if you don't understand that. This is poetry, these are exaggerations. This is not praise of a woman who somehow is superhuman. Okay? But this is praise for a woman who works hard. But it's not a prescription for a life that's devoid of work-life family balance. It's not a prescription for burnout or anything like that. Or quite frankly, humans can only go about a week without sleep before they die. So it's not a prescription for dying in a week. But I think what we should compare this to is Paul's admonition that we should pray without ceasing. Now, there are some people who similarly take that and say, well, how do I do that? How do I pray constantly? Well, it's pray continually in the sense that prayer pervades your life. It's okay to study for a test. Maybe pray before you study. Maybe pray at the end of study. Maybe pray before the test. Hopefully you guys do that. I'm sure a lot of you do. Just prayer pervades your life, that your prayer becomes just a part of who you are. It's the same sort of thing here. It's not work without ceasing in a literal sense, but work in a way that work is part of who you are as a person. That when people think of you, they think of somebody who works hard, not somebody who is idle or anything like that. We can also see this in Jesus' life. He took time to pray by himself and to be rejuvenated. The Bible commands every one of us to take time to rest. So it doesn't make sense that the Bible commands everyone to take time to rest, but Proverbs 31 is a woman who never rests. You have to understand poetry. But we should be people who use our time wisely. If you never stop to rest, you're going to die. If you never take a break for peace and quiet or anything like that, you're going to burn out. We're not meant to be robots, machines, or anything like that. And I'm sure Solomon quite well understood that. Now, along these lines, one of the podcasts that I've started listening to recently is called Pray the Word with David Platt. It is not on our resources page, but I'm probably going to add it because I have 3 podcasts on there that I recommended. If you're a podcast listener, I highly recommend them. And I recently started listening to this one, and it's also really good. And just this morning, the newest episode related to this. And in this podcast, what he does, he takes a short little passage of the Bible, and he reads it, he explains it, and then he prays based on it. And one of the ones, the one from this morning, Proverbs 6, is about modeling like the ant who works hard and plants. And he goes through and he reads that. And here's part of the text from what he says. He says, now obviously this could be misunderstood to say never rest, which we know the Bible does not teach. God himself models rest for us, but it's interesting. It's not that God rests for 6 days and then works for 1. God works for 6 days in creation and then rests on the 7th. Clearly, God has created us to work and to work hard, to labor in a way that brings him glory, in a way that brings provision for our lives, for our families, in a way that provides for the good of society and people around us. Work is good. So I was listening to that this morning. I was like, that's perfect. And threw that in there and added it because it's exactly what I'm saying. And this is true for the Proverbs 31 woman, and it's true for Proverbs 6, which is speaking to men. There are proverbs that say, work hard, don't be lazy. And they don't mean that you should have no balance in your life. They don't mean that you can never take a break. They mean just be the type of person who works hard and brings glory to God through your work. So Solomon wasn't telling men to look for a wife who's a workaholic, but telling young men to find the kind of woman who does work hard and is making the world around her a better place. A woman who will work for her family one day, for her community, for the glory of God. Find the kind of woman who uses her time wisely. She's not known for being lazy, but that she can be trusted to get things done. She can be trusted to go out and do things on her own because she's intelligent and capable. She fears the Lord. She loves God. She wants to bring joy. Find a woman who's going to bring blessing into your life through her work and her effort. And that means find a woman who's devoted to her family's good. The kind of woman who will look for ways to benefit her husband and her children. But there's more to being this wife or woman of noble character. Find a woman who's going to work for not just her family, but for her community's good to the glory of God. So that's the next one there. John's community here. There we go. She is a blessing to her community. So she cares for the poor. Verses 20 and 26. She cares for the poor, and she speaks wisdom into people's lives. So she loves her neighbor as herself, it tells us. That charity was an essential part of her character. It was an essential part of just being a good person in Jewish society. What it meant to fear the Lord, to love God, was to care for people and to support those in need. And this is carried over into the New Testament, and in fact, Jesus even amplifies it and says, rather than saying, who's my neighbor as a way to get out of caring for people, look for everybody you can care for. Love your enemies even. Pray for them. So Jesus expanded this idea of caring for the poor. And this is a woman who cares about the poor. It tells us there in verse 20 that she stretches out her hands to the poor. And then in 26, that she speaks wisdom into people's lives, which means that she's a disciple maker. That's what it means to speak wisdom into someone's life. She is, in essence, a teacher of God's word to other people. That's the foundation of wisdom. When we go back to chapter 1 of Proverbs and repeated throughout Proverbs, is that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Wisdom in Proverbs is not calculus 3. The wisdom is the ability to make good moral decisions that honor God. So when she speaks wisdom into people's lives, she is helping them know and trust in God. She can speak God's truth into people's lives. And remember, because of this, she is praised by both her family and the entire community at the city gates. This is also part of the creation mandate. Go back to Genesis 2:15. She's working and keeping the world around her. Genesis 2:15 outlines the command that God has given to Adam at the beginning and then carried over to all mankind. It says in 2:15 in Genesis, the Lord God took the man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and watch over it. And that's the essence of what our mandate in creation is. Work and watch over creation. Make it better. Cultivate the earth. And part of God's plan was for mankind to fill and subdue the earth. But man quite literally can't do that alone. In order to fulfill God's calling on his life, the man needed help. He looks at all the animals, none of them are going to work. So God gives him the woman as a helper in this creation mandate. The woman is essential in fulfilling God's call on his life. He works and keeps the earth with her helping him in this role. And that includes not only physical work, but social work of caring for the poor and discipling. And number 5, her work and character and God give her confidence for the future. So verse 21 and 22, it says, she is not afraid for her household when it snows, for all in her household are doubly clothed. She makes her own bed coverings, her clothing is fine linen and purple. And then repeated in 24 and 25, she makes and sells linen garments, she delivers belts to the merchants, strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. So in verse 25, we're told that she has strength and honor. And in some translations, it's strength and dignity. The Hebrew word there, usually in the Bible, is used for God, and it's translated as majesty. So what does it say? What does it mean if we say that God is majestic? It means that he is beautiful in the sense that he is great, and we trust in him, we value him, we respect him, we put all those things together in that sense of majesty. So here, when it's talking about that she is clothed with strength and dignity or honor or majesty, it's telling us again of this great worth of this woman and how she is a woman to be respected. She's not just an honorable woman, but a woman who is admired and respected. And again, this is because she's a woman who fears the Lord. Her quality of command and admiration and respect in the community of God's people necessarily goes back to the fact, the idea, that she is a woman who fears the Lord. And this brings us to the central verse of this chiasm. She enables her husband to fulfill his calling on his life. So this is a chiasm. In chiasms, the center verse is the key point. So go back to Solomon. Solomon is writing to young men, telling young men the type of woman that they should look for. And it tells us here that her husband is respected at the city gates. That's the center verse because that's what the men are looking for in their own lives. Solomon is telling these young men, if you want to be the type of man who is going to be respected, is going to be a leader in community, and things like that, this is the type of woman you need. You need her supporting and helping you for you to be all that you want to be. And it's the center verse, which tells us that this entire passage, again, is written to men about what they should be looking for. The chiasm points to that idea that young men should be looking to fulfill their calling, but they need to partner with a good woman in order to do that. If they want to be leaders, respected community leaders of God's people, they need help. And the woman was made to be that helper for the man in that creation mandate. He cannot achieve his calling without her intelligence, without her work, without her faithfulness. So it's important that young men choose wisely. They need this help of women. And that leads to number 7. Men and women have a high calling together. So, the details of Proverbs 31 women are the calling for all of us. I talked about how sometimes it can seem like it's a bit overwhelming. She can't go to sleep, she has to move around clothes, she has to buy a field, mind business, and just take care of her household servants. And, it can seem sort of overwhelming. But ultimately, if we really break it down to its essence, what Proverbs 31 is calling a woman to is what Proverbs is calling men to as well. So we take some of the ideas here. Hard work. Hard work, and this is in your notes. Hard work is repeatedly taught throughout the book of Proverbs that men should work hard, that we should all work hard. We talked about that with David Platt's podcast. Planning for the future. Talks about this woman, how she has no fear of the future because she's planned ahead. That is frequently in the book of Proverbs explained that we should all be doing. Trusting in the Lord is something frequently in the book of Proverbs these young men are encouraged to do. Investing in fatherhood. She's investing as a mother in her family. Well, the entire book of Proverbs is a father giving advice to his sons about how to be godly men. So the entire book of Proverbs is about a father investing in his children and helping them and being a blessing to your community. This woman in Proverbs 3 was a blessing to her community, and Proverbs has numerous passages telling young men how they can be a blessing to their community. So all these things are callings on men and women together. Now they might go about these things in unique ways as they partner together. But the general calling that God has on our lives as Christians to love our neighbor, to work hard, to make the world a better place, those sorts of things are callings for all of us. And the woman was created as a necessary helper in the man's creation mandate. So the key is that the woman was made to be a helper for the man. It's not good for the man to be alone. They were made to complement each other and do this work together. So a man should look for a woman who can complement in that way, who can come alongside him and help him and make him better and improve the world with him, make the world a better place. So men and women can do this together in marriage and in broader community life. As I said, the only other woman in the Bible that's called this virtuous woman or a woman of noble character is the woman Ruth, who wasn't married at the time, but she was working for her family, her mother-in-law. She was part of the community. She trusted in the Lord. That's a major theme in that book of Ruth. She was this type of woman. So you don't have to be married, man or a woman, to be a godly man or a woman. And you can partner together as men or women in a variety of ways, including in the church. So whether you're single or married, you can partner with people in the church as we, as a community, as a family of believers, work together to improve the world around us, to share God's good news, to speak wisdom into each other's lives. All these things we can do as men and women partnering together. But that leads to the fact that we're going to fail. We will all fail at our calling, but we can succeed ultimately in Christ. None of us will always fulfill every demand in our lives. We're all going to fall short, but that's not a reason to dismiss this call.